All right, story time. So this one time, when I was a kid, uh, I went in. I went to a summer camp. Yeah, I know a lot of summer camp stories, but I went to a summer camp and we was playing dodgeball. Now we played this as a regular thing. I went to like a pool kind of camp, so we did pool stuff here and there, but we also like it was like swim camp, but whenever we weren't doing pool stuff, we were like, you know, playing other games, and one of them was dodgeball because our camp was known as the best in dodgeball. Other camps would come visit, play dodgeball with us, and then lose because we practiced. So there's one time I remember there was a really nice Russian guy. Like he was kind of somewhat new, and he was a summer camp dude. Okay, I don't got no beef with that guy, but for some reason he needs to prove himself. Anyway, so we were playing dodgeball, and at the start of the game, you have to run towards the center, grab the ball before the other team does, and, pretty much get them out, blah, 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 right? So, what the Russian guy, who was the one of the camp counselors, he, like, ran up, and he grabbed the ball, because, he's a big, almost adult or adult, and I'm just a kid, so I can't keep up with his speed. He's gonna run, grab the ball first, and everything. But I grabbed the ball right after him, and immediately, as soon as I grab the ball, I start backing up, just so I can prepare for whoever's gonna throw a ball at me. Because I was actually pretty good at dodging in dodgeball. Like I was like, I might not have been the best thrower, but I could catch and I could dodge, So I'm backing up, getting ready, waiting on whoever's gonna throw the ball at me. But as I'm doing that, in the same motion that I'm backing up, the camp counselor is also getting ready to throw the ball. And as he's in mid motion for throwing the ball, his elbow and my head connect. Like with the force of him throwing and the force of me backing up. He really like smacks the dog do out of me, and I dropped to the ground. Now I just remember I remember the feeling of just I was standing and then now I was on the floor, but it wasn't like I wasn't like knocked out. I was kind of just like rocked really hard. So as I'm like, writhing in pain, I'm thinking like, oh, it's like he hit me, and my brain's registering it as, oh, this just feels like a bump. It just really sucks. Ow. Right? So I'm rolling in the ground, but I feel okay for the most part. Like I don't feel like weird or anything. Like I didn't get a concussion. I didn't like, you know what I'm saying? So I just kind of like ate it. And I remember like as I'm on the ground, kind of rolling and holding my head, I looked a little bit to the left towards the floor, because I was about to get up, and I just saw like a whole bunch of blood on the floor, like starting to like. It wasn't a lot of blood. It was a lot of bleeding. There was a lot of droplets. You know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of confused. And immediately, one of the other counselors, I remember him. He was a real chilled guy. Like he was I was very problematic, and was kind of weird. So this counselor though, he always kind of like was on my side. He was a really chill dude. Like he made me feel understood in some ways, But he grabbed me. He took his counselor shirt off. This was back when they had like red shirts instead of blue ones. But he wrapped his shirt around my head, and he was like kind of bringing me over to the infirmary. And I remember just looking down the whole time as he was like holding me and like, bringing me like walking me over to the infirmary. And like every step I took, there was like 2 or 3 drops of blood that fell out of my nose. Because it was dripping from my head down my face to my nose. And I'm thinking like, holy crap, what happened? But nonetheless, we make it to the nurse, and the pain kind of subsided. It was just kind of like a strike, and then it hurt in the moment, and then it kind of went away a little bit. And I just felt sore. It didn't feel like it felt like a bump or something to me. So they bring me over to the infirmary, and the infirmary are like looking at it, and they're like, it's like one girl and everything, and she's kind of squeamish. She's not like, like it was like a group of counselors. It was like 3 of them, and they end up they end up like seeing it, and they're like, oh my god, like shuddering and stuff. And I guess they didn't really want to say how bad it was because they didn't want to freak me out or anything. But I'm like, I'm like talking to them, and I'm like perfectly fine in my mind. Like I'm not like, I don't feel funny, I don't feel like concussed or anything. So it turns out that their reaction was just because they were looking at the back of my skull. Yeah, I had a wound about the size of like maybe 3-4 inches, something like that. And yeah, like my skull was exposed to them. And I remember seeing it, like seeing their reaction and being like, oh man, like, gee, that sucks. I guess my head split open. And they're like, yeah, you're gonna need stitches, bud, sorry, and all this stuff. And I'm like, don't worry about it. I mean, it's fine. Like, I guess it won't be that bad. Well, they'll probably put me to sleep. I'm a kid, I don't really know how injuries like this work. And I'm like, cool, I get to come back with a big patch on my head and get all the attention. I didn't really think, logically, with this open wound in my head. Excuse me. So, they pretty much were like, we gotta call like your mom and all this stuff. So they call my mom up. My mom comes over, and my mom's not like, she's not angry or anything at the dude. She's more so like, well, she was really understanding. She's like, well, he's really accident prone. Something was bound to happen. I mean, he breaks something and falls and gets hurt all the time. Like, so she doesn't seem too worried about it, but she is a little worried, like that, oh man, my head's open. She's hoping that I don't have a concussion. So they end up calling the ambulance, and the ambulance came and scooped me, and they put me in the stretcher with the neck brace and everything, and they started asking me all these questions, which I'll just call them concussion questions. And they're pretty much like, oh, do you know what day is today? Do you know your birthday? Do you know like this? Do you know that? Like just regular questions. And I'm just like, yeah, and I'm answering them all fine, and I'm okay. Like, I don't even really feel the pain anymore. I'm guessing I was in shock. But what I do remember was that my mom told me my counselor, the one who struck me, was profusely apologizing like so much to my mom. Like he thought he was gonna be like in trouble, like in legal trouble. He thought he was gonna get like fired, all that stuff. And he's new to the country, so he was just like, I really don't want to mess up anything I got going on because I just got here. My mom's like, hey, don't even worry about it, it's okay, accidents happen. This kid gets hurt like 20, 30 times a week, so something like this, I kind of saw it coming, but not really, so she doesn't blame him or anything, which was good, because I liked him. He was a really nice guy. But so I'm on the stretcher. They're asking me all these questions, and they put me in the back of the ambulance, and they send me all the way to this place called Children's Hospital in Washington D.C. Because that was, my position at the time, like for emergencies, I guess. But yeah, I got there. The nurses are asking, if I'm okay and all this stuff, and I sat there and I was able to raise my hand like a little bit and stick my thumb up. I'm like, I'm good, just laying in the thing in the stretcher. Oh, also, I guess I forgot to mention that they wrapped my head up obviously before they put me on the stretcher down at the camp. They put like gauze over top of the wound and then wrapped my head up in like a that medical tape thing, whatever it is, that doesn't, whatever it's called. I don't remember the name, but whatever. So I get there to the hospital, and I go into the ER and everything, and I'm waiting there, and I'm waiting a while. But they pretty much tell me like, yeah, he's gonna need stitches, just wait a while, the doctor will be in soon, all this stuff, right? So I'm not tripping. I'm like, all right, guess I'm just gonna need stitches, I'm like, am I gonna, when I go to bed, is it gonna be like, I'm gonna be knocked out for a long time? Like, will I'd be hungry? Like all this, I'm asking all these questions. They're like, they're not gonna knock you out. What are you talking about? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, no, they're just gonna numb you. And I'm like, oh, I gotta be awake for this? Oh, great, good grief. So the doctor comes in, and he's just like, hey, buddy, I see you got yourself into a little jam here. And I'm just like, yeah, accidents happen, kind of thing. And he's pretty much like, all right, well, here's what we're gonna do. You haven't received your tetanus shot in a while, so we're gonna give you a nice little tetanus shot in the back of the head where the wound is, and we're going to sew you up. So I'm like, okay, and I'm like, I don't really like shots, but I'm not thinking much about it. I'm just like, all right. And they turn me around. I'm like, my face is in the pillow, my ass is up. No, my ass isn't up, but I'm laying like on my stomach and everything, and I'm holding on to like the little metal beam part of the bed. So they prepared the shot, and they said, all right, now you're going to feel a pinch, and then right after you're going to feel a burn, okay? And I'm sorry to say this, but it is going to hurt. But the second that we get this out the way, you won't feel anything in your head, and you'll be okay. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then let me tell you, a pinch and a burn is an understatement to what it felt like. The pinch felt like you're hanging off a cliff by one strand of hair. That's what the pinch felt like. Like it was like that thin and that like it was like one tiny ass spot, and it hurt so ridiculously bad, the pinch into the wound of the back of my head. And then the burn, you might as well just put like, I don't know, you might as well just put cooking oil after frying it into the wound. That's how much it burned. Like it hurt so bad. I was like screaming in the pillow. I was crying. It was a lot of blood, like all over the towel that was sitting on the pillow. I was going through it. That hurt way more than actually getting hit. Way more. So I'm like sitting there and I'm going through it, crying and screaming and all that. But eventually the the pain kind of subsided after like 20 minutes and went away. And I didn't feel anything. And they started sewing my head. And it felt so weird because it felt like, it just felt like they were pulling my hair. You know? I couldn't really explain it. It just felt like they were pulling my hair, like, over and over again. But I felt the needle go into my skull without the pain. Not skull, sorry, my skin without the pain at all. Is this? Yeah, for food. So it sucked. It sucked a lot. It was really ridiculously painful. And I've never known any pain in my entire life worse than that, you know, physically. Yeah. So that was one of the 2 times that I needed to get stitches in my head. The other time, yes, I'll make this a 2-part, like all together. The other time I got stitches in my head, I was out in by a community center playing, like, I think it was either tag or freeze tag, but it was tag of some sort with some friends. And we ended up, like, you know, I'm not it, and somebody's it, and they're trying to get me, but they're a lot slower than me. So I'm teasing them and stuff, running backwards, and like, haha, you can't catch me. And I just remember his reaction right before tragedy struck, and it was like, hey yo, you about to boom. And what had happened was I was running backwards, and because the field is like at the front of the school, not the school, the community center, it was right in front of the community center where there was a parking lot. So I run into this handicap sign, and I smack into it really hard, and it wobbles, and I lose control of my like surrounding, I guess, and I like twisted. I hit a car hood that was in front of the sign, and then I fell to the ground on my back.
When it was clear we were going to have to,
and yeah, it hurt again. Felt like a bump. It didn't feel like anything major. I got back up ready to play again, and they're like, "Yo, you're leaking!" And then I like touched the side of my head. I'm bleeding a lot.
Look,
bleeding a lot.
Volcano's power. I hope your trip to Labyrinthian was worth it.
And I run straight inside. My stepdad was working at the time, you know, just getting ready to get off. And he was like, I ran up to him and I'm like, hey, I got hurt, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, you know, crap. So,
I just let someone do something.
So we run towards the bathroom, and you know, he sticks my head in the sink, starts washing and rinsing and everything, and it hurts, but it's not like that bad. I'm more worried if I have to get stitches again because my brain is like wired on that shot. I'm like, I don't want to get that shot again. That shot sucked so bad. And I asked my stepdad, hey, am I gonna need stitches? And after he rinsed it, he looks at me, he looks at it, and he's like, oh yeah, you're gonna need stitches. I immediately start crying. So, basically, yeah, like he told me, yeah, you gotta get stitches. We're gonna wrap you up and drive to the hospital right now. So I'm like, oh. And then we go to the car. We get to the hospital. I wait in the ER, and I'm freaking out. You know, I'm like, I really don't want it to get a shot. One of the nurses had talked to me and told me, hey, you know, that was a tetanus shot. You get those like every 10 or so years, something like that. And we're gonna give you a cold cream. And I'm like, okay, that sounds better than a shot. Does it hurt? They're like, no, it just feels really, really cold, and then you won't feel it anymore. And I'm like, all right. So I asked my stepdad if he could take a picture of, the wound in my head, and he did, because I didn't see the first one, so I wanted to see this one. And yeah, you'd be surprised how thick your skin is before it gets to your skull. It's at least like 3 or 4 centimeters, not maybe centimeters, like 2 or 3 centimeters of skin before you reach the skull. It's like actually somewhat thick. But yeah, I saw my skull and I thought it was really cool. And it was a weird white with red around it because the blood. And they put the cream on me. They put the cream on me and everything. They laid me down, put the cream, and it hurt, but it was like over quick. And they pretty much told me like you're gonna be okay and everything. Like we're just gonna sew you up, but we're gonna give you sutures this time. The first time I had stitches, and those dissolved, and I was able to take it out like once it dissolved out of my skin because it healed, and the little thread fell out. But these I would need to come back within a couple of weeks and have them snipped. So they lay me down, they start sewing me up, and I feel the needle traveling through my skin once again, and this time it feels way more weird. Like I'm cringing in my seat, I'm playing music and stuff in my MP3, and yeah. They stitched me up, I was fine. I think we went and got Popeyes or something after. Speaking of which, I could go for some like Popeyes right now, to be honest. Anyways, yeah, they sutured me up. I came back within the following weeks like they told me, and they kind of like yanked the suture to stick the scissors underneath it so they can snip it, and that hurt. That hurt like hell. But yeah, it healed up just fine. And I had 2 scars in my head, one in the back of my head, and it makes it look like a bald spot whenever I cut my hair really short. So that sucks. And the other one kind of on the side of my head towards the back, that one's small. I don't even think it's really there anymore, but yeah, that was oh, this bear is a lot stronger than I thought. Okay. I got wrecked. Well, anyways, that's the story of me getting stitches twice.
Good to see Skyrim still.
See ya.